It is Y105, number one for all the hits. I'm Steve Pulaski. Got some great individuals from the Dubuque Fighting Saints organization in studio. And new to Dubuque, new to the Fighting Saints, he was named the 6th head coach in the organization's history back in June 2022. He came from the Reading Royals of the ECHL, the East Coast Hockey League. He is Dubuque Fighting Saints head coach Kirk MacDonald. Coach, how are we?
Oh, great. Thank you very much for having me.
It is great to have you in studio today. First things first, you've been in Dubuque, I would say, for a cup of coffee and a sweet roll, but I think you're still working on the cup of coffee over here. General early impressions so far over the last couple of days?
Well, it's been awesome. I got in late Friday night and was able to explore a little bit Saturday and kind of walked around downtown a few different places and had a beer and had some dinner and it was great energy. Seemed pretty busy buzzing downtown, and then got to move into my place yesterday. I'm really excited up by University of Dubuque there, and yeah, the town has been awesome so far, and I'm really excited to be here.
You're gonna fit like a glove in no time too, because you come with a lot of experience too. You were the head coach again of the Reading Royals too. Led them to a 158, 86, and 34 regular season record too. Talk just generally too about maybe your coaching philosophy, even what kind of you're bringing to Dubuque and from a philosophy standpoint.
Yeah, I think for me, the exciting thing to come here from where I was at was like the player development aspect. This is the USHL is arguably the best junior league in the world. 16 to 20-year-olds. Even compared to any of the top leagues in Canada, I think we had the second most NHL draft picks of any league in the world last year. For me, that really vibes with what I want to do: help guys get better, help them move on. I want to play a modern game where we're aggressive. We want to create a lot of offense, score goals, while also still trying to be physical and bringing that part of the game on the ice. I know it's a little bit different than it was 15, 20 years ago, where there's not as much fighting anymore, but there's still an element of aggressiveness and physicality to hockey, and you try and combine the two to not only make a good product on the ice and win hockey games, but be entertaining for the fans.
Going back to the previous coaching regime, and whenever a new regime comes in, there's differences in schedule, there's differences sort of in practice structure, pacing, and all those things. How steep do you anticipate the learning curve being for these players this year?
Yeah, I don't think, funny, probably in some ways it's a positive, some way it might be a negative, but there's only 7 returning players. So we're trying to acclimate everybody, build a culture. I think a lot of the stuff's been established throughout the history of the organization, going back to 2010, and Jim Montgomery being here, and every coach that's been here has done a great job. And I think there's a culture of success within the organization, and I'm just trying to build on it. I understand I'm new, but I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel either. It's not broken. So let's kind of keep things going the way they've been. I'm going to have my own way I want to do things, but at the same time, there's high expectations within the organizations and win hockey games and also develop players. And I think for me, that's really exciting.
He's head coach Kirk MacDonald of the Dubuque Fighting Saints. And what made Dubuque the ideal landing spot for you? It's kind of a contrast, from where you came from a little bit. What put Dubuque on the map for you, and what ultimately made you want to be the head coach of the Saints?
Well, obviously the history here, the success that the team has had. My former assistant coach in Reading, and I actually coached him prior to that in Reading, Nick Luco. He was on the championship team in 2011. Friend of mine from college, Luke Karate, was on that team. I coached Frank DeChara, who scored the OT winner for the Clark Cup in 2013. So there's a lot of history for me just being familiar with the organization. I know what a great job they've done moving coaches and players on. And again, like the expectations to win and the high standards, and coming to a league where you're expected to be able to develop the next generation of NHL players. And I think that's really exciting for me. And the league I came from is probably not as well known for that. So I think that for me is the real challenge, and I'm excited for it.
And going on too, you worked with some Dubuque players in Reading too, is that right?
Yeah, quite a few. Like I said, Frank DeChara. Geez, I'm losing a couple names here. Like I said, Nick Luco, who was my assistant. Like I said, they had nothing but great things to say about it. And I texted with Nick Luco here all weekend asking. He's like, "Do you remember any good spots to go?" And talking. And I'm sure I've been trying to convince him to now come out and visit in the summer. So there's been a lot of relationships that we've crossed with each other over the years that have led back to here. And it's kind of when the opportunity this spring came to speak to Callie and Brad Kwong about the opportunity here, it was tough to pass up.
Last question for you, Coach. Any particular opponents, any particular games that you're looking forward to just very early in the schedule for the Fighting Saints? Anything that you got circled on that proverbial calendar?
Yeah, for me, I think Chicago, I think, is a big one for me personally. Just, they've kind of tried to reinvent the wheel a little bit at the junior hockey level, and I think, you want to go out and beat the best teams, and they've kind of set that standard, with the NHL draft picks that they've had, and I think for me, we want to try and pass them in some way, and obviously, I know Waterloo's right down the road, like Des Moines. Actually, one of my former players is the assistant in Des Moines, Garrick Saucier, so I want to make sure we give it to them pretty good too. Well, when we see them, but I think there's those traditional rivalries, right? Waterloo, Cedar Rapids, that you want to get excited about. They're right down the road, and there'll be a lot of home and homes with them. And again, you got to set your standard early and be ready to go.
He's head coach of the Dubuque Fighting Saints, Kirk MacDonald. Looking forward to a great season. Starts next month in September, right around the corner. It's good to have you in studio, Coach, and I wish you nothing but the best for you and your players.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you having me.